Then on the duplication side, here we're looking at magazines and their internet companion, their internet site. And we can look in the data of the original NRS and look at the duplications that were found there and compare them with ours. And they're very, very close, because the calibration hardly affects them. But you can see the logic in this slide. Here you've got golf with golf, SV golf with its companion. Very high interest subject, a lot of overlap. Go down and look at golf with a women's magazine, and there's hardly any duplication. So we're very confident that the patterns of duplication that we can achieve are very good indeed. So that's the way that we create it. Now we have a tool that we can start to build packages. We've got the data sets from internet, print together, and TV and radio. So now we have the problem of, the first problem is when you look at this combined set, average issue readership, what does it give you? If you put one insertion in a magazine or a newspaper, it gives you one OTS. What happens if you buy a unit of internet for a period of time? 10, 15, 20 OTS? So when you put print with internet, internet dominates the gross measure. And we think that that is not the best thing to happen. It doesn't do print any favours. So in Sweden we conducted an independent, what we call quality of reading survey. And we collected two other sets of information. We collected a lot of other information, but two critical sets. One of which was how many times do you pick up the copy before you finish reading? And the second one is so you need frequency and you need proportion of issue read. So what proportion of the issue did you read? So in a newspaper or magazine, you don't read every page, and therefore that gives a higher claim. Whereas when you're on an internet site, you basically got a page in front of you. You're on the page. But okay, it was below the page, it's not inserted right, and there are lots of questions about that. But it's much closer than it is going through 60 pages of newspaper. So we had this separate study, 400,000 interviews, and we made, and I won't do it in great detail, we made an inscription, which is like a data, is a data fusion, into the National Readership Survey, but it was not one data fusion, it was 250 times 4 data fusions, because we took one title, frequency of reading group, and matched it into the NRS, so that it was the same title and the same frequency group, so you could pair them off, because you could then, we had enough sample. In other words, my comments earlier about data fusions and to run out sample, we had 400,000 in this case, and we were able to do this. So what does this do between, well, what does it do for a magazine if you take into account the multiple reading occasions and proportion of issue read? If you look at the first line, Amelia, average issue readership, the gross reach is 7.7, the net reach is 7.7, 1 OTS. When you take into account the pickups, the gross is no longer 7.7, it goes up to 18.3, and you've got 2.8 OTS. And when you now take in the proportion read, because if you increase the audience from that measure, you really ought to balance it out to get it closer to the ad exposure, and that brings it down to 0.87. The ad exposure value was 0.87 on average, and that brought our reach, gross reach down to 14.9. But if you look over this side, from the media owner's point of view, the target gross cost per thousand was 276. You add in the multiple reading, it's 116, so it goes down proportionately. And you add in page views, but it doesn't go up proportionally. He's still much better off, it's 142. And it has another advantage too, because it improves the profile. If you look at the column, the profile is 90% women. It's a women's magazine. But when you take in the multiple reading, then women, who are the target group, are a higher number of readers involved, so their profile goes up. And the same with proportion of issue read. The ones who it's really aimed at are reading more of the pages. So it puts the profile up. So you have some advantages to think about anyway in terms of print measurement, but particularly when you're going to put it together with internet, which has all these OTS. So now that we've got the two data sets together, and remember that we've now created a model, and that model is a week of behaviour, and it's a yes-no binary data set. And it's very easy then to see the structure of the net reach of a title and the structure of the gross reach. And it's different because the people who are contributing to gross are usually are different in relation to the subject matter of the title. So you can see that in the first instance, in the net reach, the internet is only 0.6, but by the time it's got to gross reach, it's 2.7. So we can look at both. We can look at the solus profiles, and therefore we can then look at the whole package when you start to put them together. You can look at your print profile, your internet profile, your print internet profile, and your total package. But these are very good analytics that the publisher, content provider, can understand when he's trying to put the packages together. So, to the last part, how do you put these packages together and what's involved? Now, there's a lot of discussion about total reach. Everybody wants to know what their total footprint is. My paper plus my digital footprint. But footprint gives you a concept of something that's static. You put it down and it's a given shape and size. But actually, digital is not like that. It's much more dynamic. And this complexity creates opportunity for more competitive building of cross-media packages. There are a number of key considerations, one of which, what share of inventory am I going to try and sell? How do I use capping? This is a question on both sides. As a media planner, internet has a unique advantage of being able to cap the delivery. Unlike television at the moment, you are stuck with a lot of heavy viewers, with a lot of heavy weight of advertising. It could be overkill of advertising, and you would rather not have that. In internet, you can cap and stop the serving to an individual browser at a certain level. So that's what capping is about, and I will show you the impact that it can have. And the last element is time placement, because you have an inventory, you can sell it in a week, or you can split it and sell it in 2 weeks, and you sell the other half to somebody else. So, since reach is such an important function in the selling process, I'll show you what happens to reach over time. And of course, cost per thousand. One of the biggest problems in putting a package together for a publisher is that he's used to selling his print at a cost per thousand, probably 10 times more than he's able to get from his internet delivery cost per thousand. So if I don't SOI, share of inventory, and if I buy 100%, my reach is 50.8. But if I only sell half of it, my reach doesn't go down because I've got so much OTS going on. So I can certainly sell it twice, and the persons I sell it to have still got 50.8% reach. Okay, they've got lower frequency, but they've still got reach. Even if I sell it 4 times, 25, I only lose 1% in reach. And if I go down to 10%, I'm only going to lose 5 or 6% in reach. So here's a first thing that a publisher can understand, that he can repeat sell his inventory and still offer good reach. Now the second element is capping. Now, if I don't have a cap, my reach is 50.8, but if I have a cap of 1, it's still 50.8. The reason is a cap says you must serve everybody, but not more than once. So you have the whole of the net audience being served. So it doesn't change, but of course the cost to a buyer, and you can therefore tailor the amount that's being sold according to the budget that you think you can get out of it. So capping is very important. Now capping has another useful function, and that is I can force reach. If I was just to buy on this side here, the page views, if I was to buy 80, then my reach is that, you've seen that. But if I was to buy 11 million, not 80 million, my reach goes down to that. And if I was to buy only 4 million, or 3.7 million, my reach goes right down to here. Now that's because when the browser is served, it's served randomly, or maybe with some demographics involved, but basically it's served randomly. And that reduces the net in that circumstance. But if you cap and get the same page views, it doesn't reduce the reach nearly so much, or it doesn't reduce the reach at all. You keep the reach. So there's two elements. The third element is the dispersal over time. If I put all of my inventory in week 1, I'm offering 50.8. If I spread it, halve it, and spread it over 2 weeks, it goes up to 66, 69, and 71. This is obviously one title, one site in Sweden. It's an evening newspaper, and a very big one. So these three things are very dynamic in the way that internet needs to be controlled, and you can work with these to build yourself a package where you can make most use of the inventory that you've got. And I think this now has been in Sweden for about a year. We launched this at the beginning of the year before. So it's been there 18 months. And publishers are really getting hold of the ability to control the way that they create and market their packages. And the important thing is that not only have you got to have this data, not only have you got to understand it, but you have a piece of software that allows you to do all this packaging stuff, and that's something also that we